The house on Rosewood Lane looked ordinary from the outside. A peeling white fence, a swing that creaked when the wind blew, flowers that wilted in their pots. But behind its walls, shadows lived. Shadows made of bruises, muffled cries, and broken dreams. Maya had once believed in fairy tales. At 19, she had thought herself lucky to marry Richard, the charming man with an easy smile who whispered promises of forever. But forever had turned into a cage. The smile faded quickly, replaced by fists and cruelty that grew sharper with every passing year. The first time he hit her, she told herself it was stress. The second time, she told herself it was her fault. By the third, there were no excuses left, only fear. Her children, Aisha and Daniel, had grown up in the shadows of his rage. Aisha, at 11, had her mother's quiet eyes but carried a sadness no child should ever know. Daniel, only 8, was jumpy, flinching even at the slam of a cupboard door. They lived in silence, as though speaking too loudly might summon the monster. Maya endured. For them. Always for them. She told herself that her pain was a shield, that as long as she took the blows, maybe they would be spared. But deep inside, a part of her was slowly dying. It was a Friday night when the storm finally broke. Richard came home drunk, his boots heavy against the wooden floor, the air thick with whiskey and anger. "Where's my dinner?" he bellowed, throwing his keys across the room. The children froze on the couch, their eyes darting toward their mother. Maya's voice was steady though her hands trembled. "It's on the stove. Let me." He didn't let her finish. A glass bottle flew from his hand, shattering against the wall, pieces scattering dangerously close to Daniel's face. The boy let out a cry, small and sharp, and that sound, her child's terror, was the crack in Maya's restraint. Something inside her snapped. She moved without thought, her body fueled by years of swallowed fear. In the kitchen drawer gleamed the old butcher knife, the one she had used thousands of times to chop onions, slice bread, feed her family. Her fingers wrapped around its handle as though it had been waiting for her. Richard turned, eyes wild, mouth twisting with another insult. But the words never left his throat. The blade struck once, then again, and again, until his fury was replaced with silence. The silence was deafening. Her chest heaved as she stood over him, blood pooling around his body, the knife clattering to the floor. For a moment, the world stood still. Then she heard it, the sound of her children's breathing, fast and shallow from the doorway. Maya's body shook as reality returned. Panic clawed at her, but beneath it was a strange calm, a clarity she had not known in years. She had protected them. She had done what needed to be done. She dragged his lifeless body through the back door, each tug tearing at her muscles, her breath ragged in the cool night air. The soil behind the house was soft from last week's rain. She fell to her knees, digging with bare hands until her nails split and bled. The earth smelled of damp roots and decay. The grave was shallow, too shallow, but she had no strength for more. She rolled him into the pit, the thud echoing in her bones. For a moment, she stared at his face, pale and still, and wondered if death was too merciful for him. Then she covered him, shovelful by shovelful, until the ground was uneven but no longer bore his shape. The night swallowed her secret, the stars above indifferent witnesses. Inside, the house felt different, empty, still. Aisha stood in the hallway clutching Daniel's hand, her face pale but her gaze unwavering. When Maya stepped in, dirt on her hands, sweat on her brow, Aisha's voice broke the silence. "Is it over now?" Maya froze. The question sliced deeper than any knife. She sank to her knees, pulling both children into her arms. Their small bodies shook against hers, but for the first time, it wasn't from fear. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "Yes, my loves, it's over." But in her heart, she knew it was only the beginning. The beginning of explaining to her children why she had stayed so long. The beginning of teaching them that love was not meant to hurt. The beginning of building a life out of the ashes of fear. For the first time in 12 years, the house did not echo with Richard's voice. No insults, No footsteps to dread, only the sound of 3 hearts beating in fragile unison. The sun rose timidly, spilling light through the curtains. Maya sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of untouched tea. She watched her children eat cereal, their small shoulders lighter, their faces cautious but curious. They didn't speak of the night before, and she didn't force them. When Aisha laughed at something Daniel said, the sound startled her. It was soft, uncertain, but it was laughter, a sound she had not heard in years. Maya's heart ached and swelled all at once. The shallow grave in the yard weighed on her mind, but for now, she let the morning be what it was, a fragile taste of freedom. Maya knew the grave was shallow in more ways than one. Secrets like that never stayed buried. One day, questions would be asked, but for now, she chose to breathe, to live, to let her children feel the warmth of a home no longer ruled by fear. And if the day came when the earth gave up its secret, she would not flinch, because she was no longer the broken woman who endured. She was the mother who fought back, the protector who had chosen her children over her chains. The shallow grave was not the end of her story. It was the beginning,